Hello everybody, here we are back in New Preston Boys Club on the other side of my bike. The bike is a 2017 Triumph Street Scrambler, and we're in the village of New Preston. That's where Cheryl's Sandwich Shop was. Before that, there was a nice barber in there, and the Kressel store, that's where you got your candy bars. I loved growing up in New Preston. It was a really, really nice village. A lot of the kids were in Washington Depot, and the rest of us were in Marbledale and New Preston. And there's a river going behind these buildings because just up the way here is Lake Waramaug. And we're going to there's lots of traffic here, so you have to be very careful and let everything go by. So I'm going to go out here onto I guess this is Route 45 here. So the Aspituck is off to our left. We're going to pass Woodruff's Mill up here. Really wonderful mill off on the left. And then we'll come, there's the mill, you can barely see it. And then we're going to come to a Four Corners, and this time we're going to go off to the right, which is up the West Shore Road. So if you look off ahead, you can see that there is a very beautiful lake. And Lake Waramaug is a very, very special bit of water. I think my first fishing I ever did was off of that bridge right there. But this couldn't be any prettier than what you're going to see now. This is a wonderful, wonderful lake. Pretty soon, pretty early on, there used to be a place called the Casino, which was one of those bars you never know why they got to stay open so late, but the other bars would close, and the Casino would stay open till 2:33 in the morning. And it was made famous. It was in one of the Friday the 13th movies, and it's completely gone now. It's been turned into sort of a spectacular house. But it's right here. This corner right here is where, off to the left there, was where the Casino used to be. I think the Caverly family ran that. I may have that name a little wrong, but it was something like that. And this is a very windy little road, which is just perfect for the fact that there are so many residences sort of hanging out into the water. And I really don't think anybody on this road, mostly it says 15 miles an hour. Look at that house, the way it's just leaning out into the water. Pretty as can be. We have a very nice curve coming up here. I'm standing up just because I want you to be able to see as much of this as possible. I can't even imagine what it would be like to have a house here. It must be, this very, very big curve here with, the house right above it. Isn't that nice? Look at this curve. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. There's a house leaning just about into the road there, right above it. In the fall, I always come out this way and take pictures of the sun going down to the west. We're basically we're slightly north, but mostly west here. And the road will snake around. I think I'm going to figure out some way to stop somewhere along here, because off to the right, we're able to see all sorts of things and places that we've already been on the motorcycle. So straight across from here is the Hopkins Inn up on the hill, and we'll also see that amazing spot where all that tree work had been done with the sort of amazing house. Look at that view. So right there, when the sun goes down, it goes down right over that tree, which says how far away it is. So we've been up there looking down at this, and now we're down here looking up at that. It's a wonderful lake. So this is just, the kind of properties that are looking at the lake from the west side of the lake. At the moment we're still in Washington. If we were to go up to the left and just climb the mountain, we would end up kind of being over where Bill Blass's place was at the top of New Preston Hill. So this is really, really amazing. I want to thank all the people that have responded so well to these different clips. It's a lot of us have very, very strong memories of all of this land, and it's great hearing the stories from different people that have grown up on this land. Isn't that amazing? So the lake itself, a little bit further up here, kind of does a right turn around a peninsula, and that's where the collegiate women's rowing happens. So we're sort of south of that part of the lake, and we did come around part of the lake, and then we pulled off on a dirt road. And this time what we're doing is we're going to come up to almost the same spot, and instead of turning onto the dirt road, we're going to go up past the country club and sneak our way into what's called Kent Hollow. So that's I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's where we're heading from here. I just thought doing a little bit of Lake Waramaug with Kent Hollow would be just about as nice a ride as I could find for you guys. So we got some very nice curves here. Some people have asked if I would stop and do, more pictures of the houses, and I would like to do that, but I'm a little worried about people thinking I'm that I'm stalking their house or something. So it's very hard not to stop and take pictures of a spectacularly wonderful 18th century masterpiece. So, by the way, we are going to have one of those on this trip. So we're coming around the last turns before we get to the country club, and that hill up there is the country club. And looking down where I just pulled off, that's where the boat races happen. And this is the hill where I went skiing, and a lot of my friends would go tobogganing on this hill in the winter. I don't know if the country club still lets you do that, but nobody even thought that it was a problem, in the 50s and the 60s. So we're going to be coming down from the country club road. We're going to come down onto Berdsely Road. And it's called Berdsely Road because the Berdsely farm is on it. And, you know, I have spent my whole life driving all these roads, and it just kind of amazes me that I never found this house before. I mean, last year, I think, I just came upon it, and I started talking to some of my friends who said, oh yeah, that's the oldest house in Kent Hollow. And I just somehow had missed it. So if you think about what we've just been on, we've been on sort of highly developed, special, modern, well-made houses, one after another on a lake. And now we have this open expanse of farmland with nothing but a very few older classical bits of architecture one after another. And that's one of the joys of this part of Connecticut. So we're coming up on the original Berdsely house off on the left. And this is one of those places that is just impossible that it's this beautiful. So that's the Berdsely house. It's a salt box, and I don't know the age, but it's 18th century. And then the barns that go with that particular property are off on the other side of the road. So if we were to go straight from here, we would end up at the Anderson Road, which is the one that goes back to the north shore of Lake Waramaug. So Lake Waramaug is still off to our right and up the hill. But this valley is going to open up. We're going to go off to the west on what's called the Kent Hollow Road. We're still on Berdsely at the moment, by the way. So just down here. When I was about 6th, 7th, 8th grade, my mom was an equestrian person. She was a Boston person who, rode a lot of horses. And, she never sort of pushed it on me, but at one point she just sort of couldn't help but for the family to get a horse. And we didn't have any land for that, so we kept it at our friend Ed and Virginia Johnson's house. And so that's on the land coming up here. This is opening up into where the Johnson's farm was, which is here off on the right. And all of this land, so we had a quarter horse named Roni, because she was a roan, and she was kept on this farm right here. And that's where our good friend Ed Johnson, who was a carpenter and did all the work for my father's studio, and made our house so it wouldn't fall down. Oh, and there's an old schoolhouse right up here. So the Kent Hollow Schoolhouse is right there. They used to do, what do you call it when you, talent shows. They would do talent shows in there. So now we're on a section of the Kent Hollow Road that's going to go back slightly south, maybe a little bit west too, but mostly south. And if we stayed on this, it would go all the way back to Route 202. But on a certain point of it, we're going to turn up to the right and go up the New Preston Hill. So off on our right now, we have the Kent Hollow Hills going off. And this is, again, one of these valleys that New Preston Hill is off on our left, and this incredible ridge of hills is off on our right, and we're going to have some kids playing off here up ahead, and just past that I'm going to stop. Yeah, this is a nice field, so I think I pulled off here. So I'm glad I got out this time of day, because later on this would be so bright you wouldn't be able to see it. But that ridge just goes all the way down, all the way to Mariol, which is a beautiful section of New Milford. So we're in Kent here, and up just a little bit further it's going to turn into New Milford. And we're not going to, we're going to very quickly be going back up into New Preston. So I am not quite sure where along in here this becomes New Milford, but I know at the Four Corners it would be considered New Milford. We have Shinisky Road is going to be going off to the right when we get to the Four Corners. Oh, there was a wonderful person lived in that house. And this is another classic is right there. She was a very special lady. I used to see the woman that lived in that house used to have breakfast with her at Cheryl's Sandwich Shop where we started. And you can tell how bad this road is by the way that motorcycle is bouncing around. When the road gets really bad, I end up standing up, just because even if it's a tar road, it ends up being easier. Just magic. Look at that road. Yeah. Yep, I'm standing because it's a little bit like when you're, on a horse and you have to post. You stand up to get away from the bumpy. I mean, I could spend a few $1,000s and get a fancy suspension system on the bike, but oh, that was a nice lady. I could do a fancier suspension system, but it's just as easy to stand up and a lot less expensive. The stock parts on this bike are good enough for doing what I'm doing. If I was a professional snappy rider, I might need more, but well, then I wouldn't be me. So pretty soon we're going to be turning up to the left, going up the hill. And if we went straight and there's the Four Corner. If we went straight here, this would come down on a very, very, very famous local hot dog stand, hamburger stand called Clamps. But we've turned away from that and are going up the New Preston Hill. And so Bill Blass was at the top of this hill, and just up the way here, I'm going to look off a little bit to the right, was the comedian Joan Rivers. And I can speak about that because she's not there anymore. But she was very good to people in the area. Isn't that just the most beautiful ride? So when we get to the top of the hill, I'm going to turn down towards New Preston, around a bit of the estate land that's where Bill Blass was. So we have the stone church coming up a little bit ahead on the, oh, isn't that pretty? Look at that. And then just up here, above those two really, really interesting houses. So we got Bill's house off on the right here. And then the stone church is coming up on our left. Oh, I love that church. Great acoustics in there. So we're going to be turning down to the right, and the Bashkaroff house is the pink house right here. Is a friend of mine lived in there, and all the land now on the right is sort of the back side of Bill Blass's place, and really, really pretty land back in here. Very sort of intimate to the road. So we're almost to the end of this clip. Down at the bottom here, I'm going to be stopping when we get to the Aspituck River. And the Aspituck, again, is the water that comes off of Lake Waramaug. This just couldn't be any more fun to ride, I gotta tell you. I love back road riding. There are always surprises, you know, that the road surface can do some shaky, you know, stuff that you have to respond to, but that's part of the sport. And then, you know, the way the light hits the road and the way the curves, the way the bike has to respond to the curves, all of it sort of makes you one with the activity that you're doing. It's really, really a very magical thing to do. So I think we're getting there. I would like to thank you very much for coming along on this ride. And so when we get down here, I don't know, I think I'm going to try and show you a little bit of the Aspituck, and then the film will be ending. So, yep, Mr. Charlie Miller had a gas station right off to the right there. And you can see the church. And there's some of the Aspituck. Isn't that pretty? With the back of Charlie Miller's place. Okay, everybody. Thanks for the visit. Bye.